In this episode of Tales from the Trenches, I explore some of my biggest failures as an Agile practitioner, and there have been many. The Tales from the Trenches videos will explore and share real-life experiences and war stories with agility. We'll explore scenarios, challenges, concepts, and identify actionable takeaways that you may wish to experiment with in your own Agile journey as you forge your own Tales in the Trenches. So let's get straight to the juicy stuff. I don't mind admitting my failures these days, and a few examples of my past failings include I've been uncomfortable with silence in workshops that I've facilitated, and as a consequence I've perceived this to be a bit of a bad sign, so I've injected with my own thoughts and subconsciously altered the direction of conversation with my own biases, which ultimately I feel didn't achieve the outcome or may have hindered the outcome I was intending to achieve from the workshop. I've been guilty of feeling pressure to deliver and as such pushing my own agenda on teams rather than allowing them to discover the best ways of working for them. So I may have thought about trying to push Scrum or scaled Agile purely because I'd seen it work before, and in this situation I wasn't considering the needs of the team and the situation. I was just using my own experiences and the lens of my own experiences to drive my decision there. I've been guilty in the past of dogmatically applying Agile principles, methodologies and frameworks rather than applying common sense or even tailoring the approach to the needs of the people. And I've also been guilty of not turning that mirror on myself and examining my own behaviour, my own learnings, and not doing retrospectives inwardly. In my experience, people don't like the word failure. It's a dirty word, a negative rather than an opportunity to learn. This especially rings true with certain demographics or levels of hierarchy within companies. They just don't like to fail or be seen to failing. I firmly believe we need to destigmatize failure. It's why I've embraced the motto, learn fast, learn often. This slight tweak in language I found has been far more well received by those groups of people. To me, the most successful companies fail. They fail fast and they fail often, and they learn from their failures most importantly. I myself consider myself to be the product of failure. A series of mistakes, errors, omissions, oversights, defeats, and frustrations, but I've learned from each of these, and I continue to learn each and every day. Now, what really does surprise me about the topic of failure is that even my fellow practitioners who are going out there working with their teams, encourage them to talk about their failures and learn from them. They're often reluctant themselves to talk of their own failures. I've tried on a number of occasions to encourage fellow practitioners with a failure swap shop concept which looks to share war stories with one another for the purposes of learning. And even then, people aren't keen, or they seem unwilling or reluctant to be vulnerable and turn that mirror on themselves and examine their own failings. So how do I embody learn fast, learn often as a motto personally? Well, I came up with the concept of the solospective, and I've got a series of videos called the Solospective Sagas on my YouTube channel. The definition of a solospective is a mindfulness activity, a retro for one. I perform these solospectives weekly, and I demonstrate vulnerability by sharing this with my fellow practitioners quite openly. It challenges me to be mindful, to take on new experiments and learn frequently from what's working for me and what isn't. So as for my top tips when it comes to the topic of failure, try tweaking the language slightly when you're talking with your teams and companies, and embrace learn fast, learn often rather than fail fast. Practice what you preach and do your own solospectives. Lead by example and demonstrate to your teams that not only are you asking them to retrospect, but you're doing it yourself and constantly looking inwardly as to how you can improve. Encourage an environment of experimentation where people feel safe to experiment and fail. Look for decisions to be made based on data, establishing of a hypotheses and learning from the results of those experiments. Do share your examples of failure, always keen to hear them. I think it's really important that we as practitioners learn from each other's mistakes to try and help us prevent making the same mistakes in the future. And as always folks, don't stop believing.